Back to the 123 show with me, Noreen Mayer. On this Tuesday afternoon, I'm excited because we've got Andrew Dambina joining us on the show today. Andrew, how are you doing today?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you, Noreen. How are you?
Good, thanks. It sounds like you're in a kitchen or something.
Yes, I'm in an art studio,
Oh, I
to
beg
be
your
honest.
Oh, very interesting. To do the Tuesday report. Should save that for artsing around. Oh, or will you be doing artsing around in a kitchen just to switch things up?
Good one. I'll be next to a blender on Tuesday, just to literally mix it up. Yeah.
Very funny. So, what have you got for us this afternoon?
Okay, so get ready for a bit of a geek fest on the evolution. Well, I know you're holding your breath, so I'll just say the rest of the sentence on non-stick frying pans. Yes?
Sure,
yeah?
sure.
All right.
Like Teflon?
I'm serious.
Like Teflon or that kind of material?
Yeah, because it's there's been one of the international food and drinks magazines that I really think does some good researched articles. It's called Taste magazine. It's from the US, and I don't use it that often, but maybe a couple of times a year they come up with an interesting article. But this one's particularly interesting. A writer recently wrote what I found to be an interesting look back on what is nearly a century. It's not the 100th year anniversary, but it's almost a century of cookware manufacturers trying to make the kitchen cook's life a bit easier by letting things slide around the frying pan and not be a nightmare when it's time to do the washing up. So I came across some findings that I thought our astute home cook listener on RTHK Radio 3 would be interested to hear. Have you been through a lot of deteriorated non-stick pans in your time, Noreen?
I think so. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Because they do kind of start to crumble in a way, don't they? You know, the surface is not always reliable, or even non-stick more than a normal frying pan. I find they just kind of the handle comes loose, or they can be a bit warped in the actual pan area. They can get a bit uneven. Some of them are made very cheaply, I think.
I think so too. It also depends what material. I mean, forgive me, but I don't remember all the. I only know Teflon, but there are other sort of non-stick materials and
other non-stick brands available.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that was the first one that became quite an icon brand for the whole non-stick pan movement, Noreen. So that was you're right to mention that one. There have been some disappointments over the years, but in recent years there have been incredible developments, which is quite interesting to read about. The first ones were invented then in the 1930s, making it nearly a century of technology. And still, even today, when I went through this very in-depth researched long-form article, it seems that I'll come to more conclusions at the end of it, but that the whole work of non-stick pans is very much a work in progress, nearly 100 years later. And so the basic formula at first was Teflon, as you say, and the actual materials scientifically that are used for that, it's called polytetrafluoroethane. And that's PTFE, thank goodness there's an abbreviation for short. But it's being constantly redesigned. That PTFE is still being used today. It's still one of the options out there, but there are a lot more advanced ones than that. And established brands who debuted that technology of non-stick cookware in the 1950s became really, really popular. And these big names of manufacturing brands still pour resources into research and development of the original PTFE. And some of them are going into different areas too. They're competing nowadays with an even newer and increasingly stylish-looking, more durable non-stick pans, or manufacturers that claim to be more durable. The original PTFE pans had one layer of this substance, Teflon
PTFE,
and others.
Yeah,
PTFE. There was a one-layer coating, and then came multi-layer coatings, which didn't make it flake off, and it also made it even easier to move ingredients around in a pan and to cook without using cooking oil.
Yeah.
That was quite a breakthrough, that you could just put something in there and get less calories or oil into the food that you were cooking. Water-based coatings were used to reduce solvents that in their manufacturing stage contributes to CO2 emissions quite badly in earlier editions. You get a lot of CO2 emissions rather from the manufacturing of the first generation ones. So the biggest challenge though is that the pan makers have is to find one where the coating doesn't start flaking off or shedding after a few uses. And it boils down to how the coating is applied. They found that to make the surface and the new technology of surface stick to the pan, they had to make sure that there was no oil and dirt and there was a natural pH, and surfaces had to be roughened up to allow the coating to bite or to stick into the grain of the pan. And in the late 1980s, another breakthrough came through, which was called, I told you this was going to be a geek fest, by the way, Noreen. It's hard anodized aluminium, which was used for cookware.
Sure.
Yeah. Did you hear what I said? Hard anodized aluminium cookware. And what does that mean? It's a pan that is made, first of all, it's cast into aluminium, and then it's dipped into a solution, a chemical solution that has an electric current passed through it while in a solution that results in a super hard, black, micro-thin surface. And that surface is twice as hard as stainless steel, which was really massively revolutionary. And it's very porous. It's got lots of tiny micro holes in it, making it easier for non-stick surfaces to bond and stick more permanently and not flake off so quickly. So that's how it's evolved. But Noreen, sadly, I haven't finished yet. 2 decades later, in 2007, another breakthrough came through, and it was an alternative to PTFE coatings altogether. A new technology, which you may have heard of, ceramic coating, came in. Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't.
No? Okay. Basically it's using sand or silica and heating it into a melting point where it becomes a gel that sticks to an inner layer of the pan. And so the pan then looks quite glossy, and it feels and looks like glass. And it's considered a more green option because it's produced in a way that is less polluting environmentally. And also, very importantly, for health reasons, it has been proven to be a great alternative to PTFE, which has come over the decades under increased scrutiny for potential links to cancer. There have been...
Because I think the melting point is something like 300 degrees Celsius. So if you leave the oil in for too long, it gets too hot, it kind of peels off the upper surface, and then it leaches into your food.
Yeah.
And it's really bad.
You're right.
Inhaling it as well.
Right. Well, this Taste magazine article actually, by approaching a lot of different manufacturers of different brands, has now says that it's 230 degrees Celsius, at which these effects can take place for PTFE. So it's worth also noting that while ceramic non-stick pans don't have that potentially cancerous effect, or at least it hasn't been found since 2007, which is still some time that it's been in use and scientific research has been done. The process of degrading still does begin to happen. So it was produced originally not for the health and cancer risks, but for to stop it degrading, and because it's made in a greener way that's less polluting in the manufacturing stage. But after a lot of candid questions and answers by Taste magazine to a lot of manufacturers, the conclusions that they came to from finding out various industry truths, some of the manufacturers wouldn't comment because, there's too much at stake for their worldwide sales, but that all these pots do degrade. And the conclusion really is that non-stick pans should be changed. Manufacturers agreed to this between every 3 and 5 years, which I don't think that many people would do every 3 years or 5 years unless you had great big clumps coming off a non-stick pan. So that was a very interesting finding, I thought.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, that's good to know.
It is, and another quick one to add as a recommendation from this really in-depth article is that it's better, given that you should be changing it that frequently, which also then asks the question of where are these things being thrown into landfills, that you should stick to the dependable US $30 to $40 per pan. That's around the 300 Hong Kong dollar range. No need to get the ones which are claiming to be super duper this and that, which cost around $1,000 Hong Kong. Oh. So that's the takeaway from that.
Very interesting. Just very quickly, Andrew, do you use these sorts of non-stick pans? When
I do.
You're a big fan of them, or do you have alternatives?
No, alternatives as well. But for certain cooking, I would say eggs for omelettes and things which are,
for example.
Yes, pancakes, and also things which are a bit more delicate. The only thing I could think of in Asian cuisine really would be, let's say, a fried dumpling, which is say a fried Chinese or other Asian style of dumpling, where the skin can be so sensitive to breaking around a pan that it would easily stick to a steel wok or pan.
Totally. That's like the worst. I've made pancakes before. I did, like growing up, we didn't really use non-stick. We had like those stainless steel wok with the 2 handles. So I'd attempt to make pancakes in them, and what an error. Oh.
Did it always stick? Did they always stick?
Always, always.
Yeah.
You have to sort of peel it off, and you end up making like, I don't know, something halfway between crepes and pancakes, but you'd have to peel it off.
So it would be you know how some restaurants like they like to use the term deconstructed. Have you ever seen that for a dessert, like a deconstructed apple pie where it's in bits and pieces? This was a deconstructed pancakes. What an error!
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
I've seen a deconstructed French onion soup before on MasterChef. That was odd. Well, maybe we can do a topic on deconstructed food one day.
Well, yeah, or maybe it could just be incorporated into annoying, faddish terms and and uses. I've certainly got a number of phrases which I still find teeth-curlingly annoying, which come and go. I think I probably mentioned it before, but I really can't stand mixologist for bartender. It's just needless, really.
Yeah.
But
I feel like if your name was Merlin, then you could be a Merlin the mixologist. That's kind of cool. You know that bartender that you I don't know if our audience are familiar. You know, First Dates on British telly. That guy, his name is Merlin.
Merlin.
Yeah.
I think, I agree, and also that particular character in that program just seems like a nice guy. So I think, it's like I can't imagine him calling himself a mixologist and raising an eyebrows if that's something special. But in his case, it would pass. So, talking of drinks, this segs beautifully into the next segment on today's Tuesday report, which is, many will be glad to hear that wine and weight loss do have a relationship. This is according to an article in Drinks Business magazine just a few days ago. The polyphenols in red wine are said to burn calories in food. This is quite an interesting one because we've heard of benefits before in both red and white wine, usually more so in the red, but the polyphenols, which are meant to be good for cardiovascular health, haven't been cited as burning calories in food before. So don't give up wine when looking to lose weight, the article claims to its readers just a few days ago. Drinking wine with your food could help you shed some weight. That was the message.
Is that article sponsored by some sort of, I don't know, winery or something?
Yeah,
It's full of sugar. Wine, I thought.
Well, okay, there are calories, and there is sugar, of course, from the grapes. That's true, which might have other effects for people with diabetes. I'll just run you through the theory on this one, Noreen. So it was put out there by a professor of nutrition during a webinar to present this idea. The name of the webinar was Wine and Weight Management. Is it possible? This was the proposition put forward by Professor Rosa Lamuela Reventos from Spain, who began by answering her own question, which was that very question. Is it possible to lose weight by drinking wine on a regular basis? So she's a professor at the Barcelona University of Nutrition, Food Science and Gastronomy, and she went on to moderate that a debate about wine consumption from her research not correlating with weight gain. She revealed new evidence to show that red wine, in particular, more so than white wine, can help burn calories in food when it's drunk with meals together, offering a range of health benefits besides this as well. And she told the audience that the term empty calories was misleading if it's used for describing wine, which contains a whole list of beneficial minerals, vitamins, as well as these polyphenols that I mentioned, which do the calorie burning. But the minerals and vitamins that are in there, in her mind, makes wine not empty calories. Some other alcohol, particularly beer, is often called empty calories. So are spirits sometimes. But it's been applied to wines, and she's disputing this. And the webinar was organised not by a particular wine trade board that you suggested, which would have made sense, but it's an organisation which is called Wine in Moderation. It's about not drinking too much wine, actually. So interesting that they took it on as being an organisation which wants to promote drinking wine in moderation. Goes on to say that, or it sponsors an event that proposes that it can decrease weight. Anyway, she mentioned that the growing proportion of the world is considered to be obese by body mass index, that's the BMI, but the combination of a rise in obesity and the sense that alcoholic drinks provide empty calories has led to the mistaken custom of eliminating wine from a weight loss diet. She says this is a mistake. So what is the incidence of obesity and the level of cardiovascular risk among wine drinkers? Then we wonder, because we do always hear that they're full of calories. The answer is that she looked at a study that happened in 2013 called Pre-Dimed. It was a nutritional study that has been cited a lot about the Mediterranean diet, published in 2013, looking at different elements of drink, food, and other nutrition supplements that people commonly were taking around the 2010 to 2013 period in the Mediterranean region of Europe. And it was noticed that those who consumed wine had a decreased heart rate, a lower BMI, and their diets were the same as non-drinkers. So they were taken as research subjects along other people who are non-drinkers that were eating exactly the same diet. So those who drink, the findings from this that she cited, those who drink very little, and that's between 1 and 6 units of alcohol per week, which is about a handful of glasses of wine per week, and those who consumed more than 14, all showed benefits. So if you're a moderate drinker or someone who drinks a bit more than is recommended, there were good results for losing calories and for the polyphenols interacting with the fatty content of food and breaking it down, basically. So these, as for cholesterol, she said that there were no changes in the levels of cholesterol when people drank wine, again, between 3 and 14 units per week. That's interesting because we do often hear also that drinking alcohol can push up cholesterol. I know a lot about that because I went through a period where I was watching things affecting my cholesterol quite carefully. And spirits in particular are supposed to really push up the cholesterol levels.
Spirits push up cholesterol levels?
More so than wine. In fact, the higher the alcohol content, the more it is said to affect cholesterol, as well as blood pressure, of course.
Wow.
That's another.
So
that's
I suppose
matter.
beer is actually all right for cholesterol. I would have thought it was somehow bad for cholesterol.
No, there are other calorific aspects to beer, which is the whole composition of beer is different. So people do put on calories from beer, but the polyphenols and the amount of calories, which are far fewer in a glass of wine than a pint of beer, means that the reaction against the way that the fat is metabolized in the body is broken down more quickly and doesn't turn into fat, which is gained in the sort of constitution of that person who's drinking and eating.
Good to know.
So I'm going to leave that there because I'm aware of the time. But it's interesting, and you can find out more about that by looking for the Wine and Weight Management Is It Possible talk, which is out there online if you want to know more.
Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Andrew Dembina, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, and you'll be back again Thursday for Artsing Around. Thank you very much.
Will indeed. Thank you.
A quick look